All right. Another fresh-faced congresswoman, whose face is fresh, so fresh and so clean, Ilhan Omar. Hello, Ilhan Omar. Now, some people say she's anti-Semitic because she says vastly anti-Semitic things and associates with vastly anti-Semitic people. Now there's a debate. Is it anti-Semitic to unhash centuries-old anti-Semitic conspiracies and pretend they're brand new? I say yes. The Washington Post, the New York Times, CBC might debate otherwise. So I want to break down what this is. So this all started in a Twitter story. Remember, she's in 2012 had the tweet of, oh, Allah, wake up the world to the wickedness of Israel. Israel has hypnotized the world. Allah, wake up the world to the evilness of this regime. This is because Hamas started a war with Israel. Now, remember, Hamas launches rockets at Israel. Israel then takes out those rocket sites. This is seen as Israel aggression. That was 2012. Then she was then confronted, like, Israel hypnotized the world. Do the Jews control the world? Oh, now I see the errors of this. So here's another thing. Glenn Greenwald sort of tweeted out, oh, why are the Republicans criticizing Omar and Taleb over their anti-Semitism, and why are they so pro-Israel? Like, he doesn't like Israel. And she basically tweeted back, it's all about the Benjamins, implying that Jewish lobby sort of sways Republican influence, and that's the only reason people support Israel. Then when someone asks, like, oh, I wonder what she means by this, she says AIPAC. The American-Israeli, whatever, they're pretty useless and pretty, like, they're in favor of a two-state solution, and they're just sort of this nebulous, they're like American CJ. So to this, she basically insisted that Jewish lobbying is the only reason that Americans support the state of Israel. May I suggest that if that's the case, then the only reason that Democrats are pro-abortion is because Planned Parenthood spends 30 times more on lobbying than the NRA does. Right? This is sort of fake apology. Oh, I'm sorry for the type of harm that my words may have caused. Or not the intention of them. It's just, oh, I might have misworded my anti-Semitism. Let me reword my anti-Semitism and say there's still a problem with AIPAC, the NRA, and oil and gas. However, there's no problem with Planned Parenthood lobbying or anything else. Interesting enough, she took lobbying money from CARE, the the Council for American Islamic Relations. Now, if you're a fan of the show, you remember our end of season 1 when we talked about CARE and their associates, the NCCM. CARE, we're just going to make it short this time, is a listed terrorist organization in the United Arab Emirates. Oh yes, the anti-Semites over at the United Arab Emirates say, yeah, Ilhan Omar is taking money from a terrorist group. She is now going to speak at a CARE event in March. She takes lobbying money from them. Now, as someone, I'm going to be honest, I've been on sort of both sides of these trying to get funds from another group to do political projects, and I've sort of been working with organizations and saying, okay, who do we support? Not directly in lobbying, but here's how things work. When lobbying groups sort of approach politicians or people who support them or media groups, it is not financially sound or stable to sort of bribe people who don't share your opinions with money. What lobbying groups usually do is meet with politicians and media figures and people, and you talk to them. I've been on both sides of this table. You talk to people and you exchange your views, and lobbying groups say, okay, is this person ideologically aligned with what we want, the message we want to get out there? If the answer is yes, they give funds to that campaign to help that person get out there. If it's no, they usually don't fund that campaign, right? It's hard to keep bribing someone to be pro-Israel. It would be a lot of money. Here's another thing people misrepresent. Oh, there's a big difference between the American Jews and the Israeli government. The Israeli government doesn't give a cent to AIPAC. One of the biggest problems we have in the Jewish community, again, behind the scenes info here, one of the things we've been trying to do is get the Israeli government to actually spend money on a campaign to counter all the insane anti-Semitic lies being spit out by the academia, the left, and the Islamists. The Israeli government is not interested in spending any money trying to sway public opinion in any way. This is why it's American and Canadian Jews who are taking this on themselves, because the Israeli government, we find just when Palestinians love bombs, we stop bombs. It's just words. Words don't kill. That's basically Israel's MO. Is Ilhan Omar a terrorist sympathizer, anti-Semite, Islamist because she takes money from a terrorist adjacent group with anti-Semitic Islamist intentions? No. They probably met and they said, Jews? Jews? Islam? Islamic world domination? Ha-ha! Well, then, right? The reason to support Israel, among many Republicans, it is the fundamental, or I'd say it's the frontline battle for Western civilization as we have it now. We are having a big problem with the misunderstanding of nationalism. People are saying nationalism is racism. You see this lie spout all the time in the media and in popular culture that, oh, they're like racists or nationalists. Nationalism is actually the evolution of tribalism sort of come together to overcome tribal differences, and it's actually a uniting thing. Like, again, I'm a Canadian nationalist. The fundamental principle of Western civilization is national identity validated by morally just liberal democracy. Like, that is what Western civilization is, right? America is a morally just nation. Now, I'm not saying it has no faults, but it is a nation where the people have power over the government to an extent. It is a liberal democracy, and it deserves to have a shared identity. Now, within that, there's Texas and New York, right? There's differences, but there is a shared nation state. Zionism is basically nationalism for Israel, and it had a special name because when the phrase came out in Europe, there was saying Jews deserve self-determination was considered a pretty radical idea in some circle. You see, Exhibit A, Holocaust. So a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats have supported Israel because Israel is a morally just liberal democracy. There are more Muslim Arabs in Israel than there are Jews in all of Europe. Muslims in Israel have more rights than Muslims in any Muslim majority country. You can fight me on that one. That is absolutely true. There are so many lies about occupation. Israel occupies the West Bank, and the reason why there's bad things is because Jews are around the West Bank. And Arabs are just so mad when they see Jews. One, that's pretty Arabophobic, just assuming they'll explode whenever they see a Jew. And two, there is no occupation. One, Gaza, on the other side, was completely given back in 2005. All the Jews were removed. Israel gave them full control of their own land. They tore down all the infrastructure, elected a terrorist group, fought a brutal civil war. The most Palestinians ever to die in a war is the Gazan civil war, where the Palestinians killed the other Palestinians. Second most is actually the first Intifada, but before the Israelis got in, where the Palestinians massacred Palestinians who weren't crazy Palestinians, but we don't need to talk about that. They then started a war with Israel and started flying rockets nonstop for the last, 13 years. That's what happened in Gaza when they got their way. The West Bank is not occupied. People even say it's disputed. Israel has legal rights to annex it. Here's why. In the San Remo Agreement, it was agreed between the British, the French, Jewish, and Arab representations that the line for which is Palestine would be given to the Jews. Then came the Mandate for Palestine in 1922. San Remo was 1920. 1922, the Mandate for Palestine included modern-day Israel and modern-day Jordan as Jewish land for Palestine. Then Arabs threw riots because they don't like Jews, so Palestine was quartered into two separate things. East Palestine, which is now Jordan, and West Palestine. And a year later, it became a transnational, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. Now it's just Jordan. So Israel actually doesn't have a legal claim to Jordan because they actually gave up, they actually ceded Eastern Palestine. Now, fun fact, when Eastern Palestine or Jordan was created, all the Jews were exiled, and it's currently illegal to sell land to Jews in Jordan. If you're a Jordanian citizen and you sell me your condominium, they'll kill you, or best case scenario, life in prison. But again, Israeli apartheid. Then in the 1967 war, Jordan was the aggressor in the war against Israel. Now, you can say Israel started the war by attacking Egypt, but Egypt and Israel were having border skirmishes beforehand, and Jordan attacked Israel before Israel attacked Jordan, which means the West Bank was taken in defensive warfare. Legally, it is the property of Israel, just they're being too hesitant, pussies, to just say it's ours, annex it, and just get this problem over with. It's illegal occupation. Okay, just because all the Islamic countries and all the former Soviet evil countries say it's illegal, doesn't mean it's illegal. You can vote saying something's illegal, but you actually have to show me the international law that Israel is violating in the West Bank. Show me the law, say how they're violating it, and then I'll change my mind. Except you can't, and I will bet $1 million you are unable to do so. So these type of lies get perpetrated all over and over and over. They lead to anti-Semitism. And Ilhan Omar is out there saying, well, Israel has hypnotized the world with their evil ways. Israel, I wish Israel would hypnotize the world. Israel, can you just spend a minute trying to just say Just say what I just said. It's a disputed, just bullshit. It was taken in defense of warfare, end of story. They're Palestinian terrorists. That was 1967. The occupation started in 1967 is the lie they tell. Now, the West Bank was where Palestine was born. Now, there was no Palestine before 1967 because that would be inconvenient. But the Palestinian Liberation Organization, founded by Yasser Arafat, who is an Egyptian, so an Egyptian in Jordan, invented the Palestinian people in 1964 at the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Now, wait a minute. The 67 war didn't start until 1967, and if you remember our history lesson, 1964 is before 1967. What were they trying to liberate before 1967? Here's the secret that no one wants to tell you. If the Palestinians wanted a Palestinian state, there would have been a Palestinian state in the early 1980s. The Palestinians have never wanted a state. They have wanted the destruction of the Jewish state. That is all they've ever wanted, and because Israel won't compromise and stop existing, they're very angry. And they've been telling lies and lies and lies for years, and people have bought it, and now the left's victimology hierarchy has taken over, and all critical thought has been thrown out the windows, where the left's view on Jews is actually being parroted by the creation of literal Nazis. And when I say literal Nazis, I mean, yes, Nazis. Not neo-Nazis, I mean former Hitler employees. Most notably, his name is Johann von Leers. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, killed himself, but his right-hand man, Johann von Leers, and a lot of his inner circle went to Egypt. We all know that Nazis went to South America. The Nazis who wanted to escape their past and get away from prosecution went to South America. That is true. The Nazis who wanted to continue being Nazis and work to eradicate the Jewish people went into Gamal Abdel Nasser's 1950s Egypt government. That is true. Go look it up. They then decided to tell the big lie. The whole Zionism is racism. That is an actual Nazi idea that be passed by the UN in the 1970s. It's the big lie. Say it, lie often enough, and it's there. And the reason why I think it's so important for everyone to know this is because Ilhan Omar and all this, it's anti-Americanism too. You'll never find an anti-Zionist who loves America or Western civilization. The two is always connected. Whereas the Palestinians, people give the Palestinians shit saying, oh, they've never done anything, they never invented anything. That's not true. The Palestinians have been the world's foremost innovators in terrorism for the last 70 years. All types of terrorist attacks have originated in the Palestinian territories. Shout out to Al-Qaeda and the flying planes into buildings. That one they originated, fair enough. But when we say ISIS-style truck attacks with when people ram into civilians, we say ISIS-style, that's very, very anti-Palestinian. Linda Sarsour would be angry with you. These Palestinians were driving trucks into civilians 10 years before ISIS ever thought of that, okay? So don't cut the Palestinians, give them some slack, all right? The Palestinians are the greatest terrorists the world has ever seen, bar none, okay? They are fantastic innovators in all things terrorism. So just how Palestinian innovations of terrorism come out, the attacks used against Israel and this nonsense, that eventually makes its way into anti-American rhetoric. This whole decolonization theory, it reads like what a Palestinian activist would have said in the 1990s, right? This is what the left does. It tries out these anti-Israel things. And if you think if the left gets their wish and Israel's destroyed, you think all those people are just going to go home? Like the gay activists are like, oh, gay marriage is legal now. We don't need to talk about, transgender penises. Women have penises too. Yeah, people don't just go home. This anti-Zionist stuff will become anti-American stuff very soon. So that's why it's important. So Ilhan Omar, so when she talked to Abrams this was the biggest joke, when she stood up to a war criminal, she didn't even know what she was talking about, right? Does she hate Jews? Yeah, she also hates America. She couldn't even pronounce Iran-Contra or El Salvador. She didn't know what she was talking about when she questioned this person. Someone just told him, America bad, America did bad things in the 1980s in Central America. Like, do you know how many people Pinochet killed? He's the right-wing dictator, people like to hate him. It's like 4,600 and something. We actually have a number of how many people Pinochet killed. Now, he was a fascist, not supporting Pinochet. But you can't count the deaths in all these socialist governments, right? Socialist Venezuela, the death toll is already uncountable, right? A lot of these places became democracies after American intervention. And people completely agree with me that the Soviet Union was also interfering. It was either an American coup or a Soviet coup. And everywhere the Soviet coup worked, life got worse. Everywhere the American coup worked, life got better. People don't look at the facts. They just have this anti-American impulse, and it's the exact same thing. And we need to sort of save the concept of a liberal democracy in a nationalist state. National identity is important. It is not racist. Canada is a Canadian place. It doesn't mean we exclude people of different colors or beliefs. It means we are a nation of ideas that anyone can be a part of as long as they accept our ideas. And no, that doesn't mean ISIS people are a Canadian.